Hey there, English learners. Welcome to your channel. Today, I'm going to talk about English podcasts. Podcasts are usually fun to listen to, and they are super powerful for learning English. Remember, the more you practice, the better you learn. My name is Ali from AFR English, and let's check out some awesome podcasts that can help you improve. You know, there are two different kinds of podcasts. Podcasts which are made for English language learners and podcasts which are made for native speakers of English. First, let's talk about podcasts made just for people who are learning English. These ones are great because they speak slowly, clearly, and explain things in easy words. You can find all links in the description below. Let's start with ESL Podcast. This podcast has easy conversations with explanations to help you understand English better. They talk slowly and explain new words in detail, so it's great for learning. Number 2 is VOA Learning English Podcast. This podcast teaches English in a very simple way. It covers different topics like news, culture, and everyday life to help you practice. This is a great resource because you can choose content based on your language proficiency, as you can see, and you can also test your English to know your proficiency level. Next one is 6-Minute English Podcast. This podcast is short, usually 6 minutes per episode, and they talk about a specific topic in each video. They use simple English and give you useful tips to improve your language skills. Real life English podcast. You can listen to conversations in English with different accents. They talk about real life topics like travel and culture, which makes it fun to learn. Learning English News Review by BBC Radio. This podcast talks about news stories in easy English. It helps you stay updated on what's happening in the world while practicing your English. Now, let's talk about podcasts for people who already speak English well. These podcasts have fast conversations that can help you understand native speakers better. Let's start with TED Talks. TED Talks are interesting talks on lots of different topics. They are great for learning new words and ideas in English. The Daily by the New York Times. This podcast talks about important news stories in detail. It helps you understand what's going on in the world and improve your English at the same time. They try to cover news, but the good point is that they speak clearly and usually slowly so you can understand it. Remember, first, it's important to pick podcasts that you like and understand. And then, actually, you do not need to know or understand every single word that you hear. Just focus on the main ideas. For example, if you're listening to a podcast about cooking, don't worry if you don't understand every single ingredient. Just try to understand what they're cooking and how they're doing it. Here, let's talk about the strategy. The strategy that I always recommend to my students. But before that, if you like this video so far, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more tips on learning English. Here's a cool trick to help you get better at listening. I suggest you listen to a podcast for 5 times. Yes, 5 times. The first time, listen to write down the main idea of the podcast. What is the podcast about? For example, if it is about cooking, it can be about making a specific food, like pizza, for example. So in this case, you only need to write how to make pizza. The second time, listen to write down some specific information from the podcast. For example, if it is about cooking, write down the main ingredients. Or if it is about the zoo, write down the name of the animals you hear. That's it. That's enough for now. The third time, listen to write down the details. Write as many details as possible. In this case, for example, different steps of making that food is what you need to write. The fourth time is to transcribe the podcast. And if it is too big, no worries. You can only write the first 2 or 3 minutes of the podcast. If you do not understand some parts, no worries. Just leave them blank for the moment. The fifth time is about tracing and comparing. This time, listen again and compare what you hear to what you have already read. And finally, you can also check what you wrote to the actual transcription of the podcast, if you have it. So, there you go. Some awesome English podcasts for you to check out. Remember, keep practicing and do not give up. Please, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more tips on learning English. And before you go, don't forget to hit the bell button below. In that way, you will get notified whenever I post a new video to help you with your English learning journey. So please, click the bell icon now. Let's keep improving together, shall we? Thank you again for listening, and see you in the next one. Bye.